listening. So that was speaking, sending, pardon me. Yeah, okay. We got plenty of those flaws, and again, you'll see those regularly when people are not listening quite as well. You might remember one called Beware the Ides of March. Remember who that originally originated with in my poem called, play, Julius Caesar. That's Julius Caesar. And he happens to be on a particularly difficult day. He didn't realize that. But he's walking along and he meets the soothsayer who says, Beware the Ides of March, which happens to be today. And Caesar just kind of laughs. What do you know about anything? He goes a little bit into his day, and sure enough, somebody else says, Caesar, you got a problem today. Oh, big deal. Anybody know? He comes back, getting toward the end of the day, later in the afternoon, sees the soothsayer again. And he says, hey, you said beware the Ides of March. The Ides of March are here. And the soothsayer says, yes, but they're not gone yet. And then if you remember what happened after that Et tu, Brute, he got stabbed by about 25 of those Romans, wanted to do him away. So he didn't listen. That's one of the really important messages that are contained in my book or anything on communication. You got to be able to listen. You might know that term, don't shoot the messenger. That just keeps coming up over and over again, and that is where an organization, politicians, where they're not listening to what the people are saying. So that's called shoot the messenger. Well, one of the ways that came out was with Cleo, Antony and Cleopatra. You remember? Cleo, after she had her hot romance with Julius, ended up having another one with Antony, and maybe a few more along the way. I don't really know. But in comes the messenger giving her a message from Rome. And Cleo is in Egypt. And the messenger is arriving with some really bad news to her about what Antony's up to. And she just hears that and she says, she gets really wild. The most infectious pestilence upon thee, horrible villain. I'll spurn thine eyes like balls before me. Thou shalt be whipped with wire and stewed in brine. Whereupon he replies, gracious madam, I that do bring the news made not the match between Antony and his wife. And that's what it was about. And that's one of the most famous scenes. And she tries to stab him, and it kind of goes on and on. I'm sure a lot of you know that scene very, very well. It's quite entertaining. Except when you realize that may be what the problem is with a lot of business people and industries and all that kind of stuff. There's a famous quote also that relates to that from Henry. The first bringer of unwelcome news hath but a losing office. In other words, the first one to show up with the bad news, not well received. Well, back to shoot the messenger. So right up here at San Onofre, this was in the paper, and you know that's a mess up there. A lot of problems, and it seemed to take forever to figure out what is the problem and all that stuff. Well, here's the way it put. It said many of the workers there were afraid to bring up problems to management. Apparently the environment and the record was, fine, you bring it up and you're gone or in bad shape. We'll set Cleopatra on you, something like that. So here's a few more. They're all communication, and these will be in verses that are all taken from here, Mr. Leach's book, which I recommend highly, by the way. You've got 200 of my quotes in here from way back then. So here's just starting that. Public speaking. It's known to be one of the worst fears that people had. I'm sure you've heard that a lot. So here's some advice in the book. Sure, stage fright inhibits many, leads them to quiver, mumble, and twitch. So replace those negative thoughts. 'Tis the mind that makes the body rich. So that one of the secrets, and he is a communication pro, teaches people to get over stage fright and all that stuff, is related to that. How am I doing here? All right. Audiences measure you early. The way you look, they surely will scan. So make sure your wardrobe helps you. The apparel oft proclaims the man. I believe that came from Hamlet also, that older chap. Ofttimes ill-chosen comments may smash your purpose with a quick kiss of death before splouting off bluntly. Weighest thou words before thou givest them breath. We've got plenty of examples of that. Maybe a fellow who was a famous New York broadcaster Imus, remember that guy? He lost his job totally because of mouthing off totally inappropriately. Weighest thou words before thou givest the breath. In other words, brain in gear before mouth. We probably all had a little bit of that, but when you're a major player, that could be a real problem for you.